I remember seeing Kefa, this tall, dark, handsome young man with this alluring smile that just made it so impossible to ignore him.
Welcome, friends. Thank you so much for joining us once again on Upya TV. I thank God for being here, and I'm glad that you're watching and you have welcomed us to your space. Once again, we have a very special friend who have joined us today. Her name is Christine Wangui Oduor. We are going to talk about love, loss, inspiration, strength, above all, about God's grace. And without further ado, you might be wondering, what am I talking about? It's not about preaching, it's about life, in real life. So I'm going to welcome our special guest who have honored us with her presence, my wonderful sister in Christ, Christine Wangui Oduor. Sister Christine, welcome to Upya TV. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Terry. It's my pleasure to be here.
Oh, we are glad you're here to inspire us today and to take us through your journey of life. And you are a great inspiration.
Thank you.
As a friend, I admire you. As a woman, I know you're a woman of substance. And as a mother, you're a great parent. And as a wife, a lovely wife. And I don't want to say those words. I want to hear soon and explain more and elaborate more what I'm talking as a wife and my mother and all this stuff. You're going to find out soon, my friend. So stay here and let us continue to know our guest. So, Sister Christine, I've said many things.
You've said many things. I'm like,
about you, and not to flatter you. Can you please tell us a little bit about your background and get our audience to get to know you?
Well, thanks again for inviting me to be here with you. And welcome to your audience. My name is Christine Wangui Oduor, and I'm a mother of two wonderful young men, Jonathan, who's 22, and Matthew, who is 18. And I was married to Kefa, the late Kefa Oduor Tuju, for 20 years before he passed in December 2018. I grew up in Nairobi, Kenya for most of my life and moved to Canada about 7 years ago. So we moved as a family, and it was just 2 years after being here that I'll tell you the story about Kefa, but it was just 2 years after we moved here that Kefa was diagnosed with a brain tumor, which was incurable, but we know he's in a good place, and that's a comfort and the hope that we have today.
Amen. Sister Christine, I know these things we're talking is hard, and I am so glad that you are willing to share them with us to encourage someone who might be going through the same thing. Because in this journey of life, we know all these things do happen. And I am going to refer to something that Kefa said himself in his own words. And I'm going to read from his book. And it's called My Life, My Legacy. This is the book that Kefa wrote when he was ill. And he left it as a legacy. And we'll give you more information about that. And when I refer to what Kefa said about Christine, about anything else, all the juicy stuff is here. So I'm going to refer to this book, and there's a quote that he said, and it's about encouraging you, my friend, about passing, about losing a spouse, and about what he had, his perspective as a man of God, about life in general, and about leaving what he loved most behind. And he said, what matters most, and it's a small quote from the book, and it's on page 110. On a bus, it does not matter where you are seated. People exit, and you don't know who will be next. It is the bus of life. I do lots of soul searching about who is next. The driver is always waiting. The driver of this bus is God. Die to be alive for Jesus. We need to live each day. Do we leave people happier or in worse situation? How have you made someone else's life better today? Have you changed someone's life today? Godly legacy. That is how Kefa lived, and that's how he thought about life. And that's how I think he's encouraging us, even though he has gone before us, of how we can live our lives.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah, and I was blessed to have met Kefa, but in a brief, it wasn't very long, and it was under very difficult circumstances. But I want you to take us back as your love story, because I don't want you to tell us everything, but like how that love story started briefly, and then
Wow. Okay. It started way back in 1992. We met at the university in Kenya. That was Kenyatta University.
Okay.
When we were just first years.
Okay.
And so I remember we first met at a navigator's fellowship on campus. And I remember seeing Kefa, this tall, dark, handsome young man with this alluring smile that just made it so impossible to ignore him as just a friend. And so he came and said hi, and of course I said hi, and after that we just kind of started talking because we met through that fellowship. And one thing we discovered we had in common was he was doing a Bachelor of Education with a French major. And I had done a little bit of French courses after my high school. And so it was exciting to hear someone who could speak French. And French is a very romantic language.
Of course. Oui.
Yeah, so we got to start speaking a little bit of French. And that's how it kind of just our connection started growing. And he was such a loving person. He was warm, he was friendly, and he didn't push his way onto me. And we didn't actually start dating until around 1995. So all along we were just friends. He would visit me in my dormitory, or rather my hostel, where we stayed, and he would help me because I was doing a Bachelor of Arts degree in fine art, and I had all this paraphernalia of art stuff that needed to be carried to the studio, and he would help me carry that stuff, and would talk, and he was just such a warm friend.
Okay.
The thing about why I never thought about him in a different way was he was from a different cultural background. So in Kenya, we have about 42 tribes. And he came from the Luo community, and I came from the Kikuyu community. And it had never occurred to me that I could ever date someone from the Luo community. So in a sense, in the back of my mind, that was blocked. But in 1995, things changed. And somehow I just started having some feelings for him. He was irresistible. I mean, he was such a friend. And it was just so difficult to push him out as a friend. And like I said, he was gentle. Kefa was a very diplomatic person, as in his personality. And so he didn't push his way. But in that gentle and, persistent way, he won my heart.
Wow.
And so we started dating, and after the university, he would, or rather during our breaks at the university, he would visit me at home. And of course, my family was like, oh, Aluo, how did that happen? But it was okay because we grew up with Luo neighbors who are Luos. And my family, my siblings always laughed and told me, hey, we're not surprised because you already knew. Actually, I knew a little bit of Luo because of my neighbors. So that piece also was a connection for us. And so Kefa, with his, just very personable personality, very warm, he also warmed his way into my family, and everybody just loved him. He was friendly, he was warm, he was very respectful, very respectful. And so my family members just loved him from the word go. And by the time, we were getting serious, they were like, yeah, you're in good hands.
Oh, yeah. I don't blame him. I met him and he was such a charismatic person.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see how easy it is. He was very easy and likable person. He was
Yes.
very lovable, and that is
Yeah.
so wonderful. So your journey continued, you got married, and then
Yeah, so in 1998, we got
Yeah.
married in December.
Okay.
So he proposed towards the end of 1997. So we had a whole year to plan our wedding.
Okay.
And that was another exciting journey, the courtship, because we didn't want to take this lightly. We wanted to go into it with a lot of thought and deliberation. And so we did a few courses around marriage preparation.
Okay.
We did a Bible study together just to help us, understand what marriage is all about, what we need to know. And then we connected with a couple who became a mentor for us and helped us prepare for marriage at the same time. So we would visit this couple in their home, just see how they do life, how they interact with one another. The home is just a natural setting to see what love looks like. And so we got to sit in their living room and just share meals with them and talk about marriage, talk about relationship, talk about parenting. And we really felt so inspired. We were like, this is what we want. And we felt we had done the best we could to prepare for marriage. By the time we were coming to the wedding, we knew this is just the entry into this great relationship together. So we got into marriage with a goal of doing life together. And it was amazing. Kefa was a great husband, a great husband. He, just the same way he was very respectful to my family, he was the same to his family. And his family all loved him, and in that way they also welcomed me into their family. He comes from a large family, but they all welcomed me, and that was such a blessing to me, because you always want, as a young bride,
Yes.
you want to feel like you belong in family. And I had a very supportive family, so it was important to have that as well on his end. So I really thank God for his family, and we are still friends with all of them today. Kefa was a great husband. He gave himself 100%. 100%. Like, I think he loved me more than I loved myself. He sacrificed so much in a way that he didn't lose himself, and that was the beauty of it. He gave of himself, but still remained who he was, and that endeared me even to him, endeared me more to him as we journeyed through life. And some of the lessons that we learned as we were preparing for marriage helped us through, because we did face challenges. We faced financial challenges, we faced parenting challenges. Our kids came 2 years after we got married. And that was also on purpose because we wanted to take some time to also bond and get to know one another before kids came into the picture, you know. And so we had this little, we used to call them, so they were not like servant quarters, like an extension of a house. So this couple had they had their house, but they had a little unit that had a kitchen and a 1-bedroom and a little living room. And we thought that's just what we need right now. We don't need a lot of space. We just need our space and a little space that we can connect and bond and start our life together.
Yes.
And so we had that, and it was fun because we would do things together. Kefa was that guy who was not scared of going into the kitchen. And that's what I loved about him, because I didn't grow up cooking a lot, unfortunately, but he cooked a lot. And so he did a lot of cooking in the house. He actually was our chapati guy. If anyone knows Kenyans and chapatis, he's the one who made our chapatis. And he actually taught me how to cook ugali. You will be surprised to know that. He taught me how to cook ugali while we were at the university, because this is a dish he loved.
Yes.
And so I knew I had to learn so that I could also win his heart by, cooking a good meal for him.
Yes.
And it was good. It was nice being together, doing those kind of things together, having that support that I don't have to do everything in the house alone. And, so it brought us much closer.
Yes.
And so by the time our kids were coming, he was 100% the father that these children needed. He was present. He was active in their lives. He was devoted to them. And I remember I had to travel to Dubai 3 months after our last born was born. And so Jonathan was about 4 years and Matthew was 3 months. And I was kind of worried, as a mother, you're like, oh my, I'm leaving a 3-month baby. Am I doing the right thing? And Kefa was like, no, Christine, just go. I got this, I'm good. And I'm thinking, a 3-month-old baby, will he manage? I was going for about a week or so.
Yeah.
And so I went. I knew he could manage. We shared some of those responsibilities around bathing the kids. So he knew how to bathe the kids. He knew how to dress them and change their diapers. And it's just that I felt like I needed to be there just to make sure everything goes well. And he said, no, I've got this. Mm-hmm. And he, I went and the kids were fine. Like they didn't. Nothing happened, nothing wrong happened, So he was that active in their lives, and he was there to teach them as they started school, did homework with them. He was so patient. He was a better teacher than I was 100 times. And so we did a stint of homeschooling before we moved to Canada. And he actually started it off as the homeschooling teacher. And I struggled with that because I was like, I'm not very patient when it comes to teaching kids. But he set the ball rolling, and I was able to pick up after that. He was very patient with the kids and very systematic with how he taught them and helped them through math and English and some of those, subjects. And he was a great teacher. And he took the boys also for most of the activities that I didn't get to do as a mother, things like rollerblading. I tried that and I was just falling over on those roller skates. Yeah. But I joined them, and he got to learn how to rollerblade in his 40s and his late 30s. And it was an exciting way of bringing the family together, doing things with the kids, supporting them in their activities. He was always involved in their soccer. They started playing soccer early in life as well, so he would take them for their practice and their tournaments, and he did all that. And I just was, I felt like this is such a blessing, because I didn't grow up with a father, and to me he was like the father I also did not have, because I just watched him raise our kids in such a beautiful way. Yeah.
Wow, that is a wonderful love story. You know, most of the people, these days, there are many children who have their fathers have bailed out of their lives and so on, and other circumstances. So when you hear about a loving man who loved his family, who loves and does things, there are many, many men who do that right now. But it's rare to hear that. When you hear that, it's so refreshing, because we understand, especially the way you said you didn't have a dad, and then you see your husband, who is also your best friend, devoted to do that thing and giving himself for his family, because he understands the value of family and family unit. It's just so refreshing, and we thank God for Kefa for doing that. And that love story is so beautiful. The French connection.
Yes. So when we didn't want our kids to know, when we didn't want our kids to hear what we're saying, we would either say something in Luo, because they didn't know Luo, or we would speak in French.
Okay. Wow.
And the kids would be like, what? So, and that was like our secret language.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. And you know, Kefa, the other good thing about him is that he loved God.
Yes.
And he led us and led our family in the way of God. Made sure that, you know, we were reading the Bible at home, doing devotions, and also going to church on Sunday. He encouraged the children to participate in, you know, Sunday school activities. And he did teach Sunday school at some point. When we met and we got married, he was teaching Sunday school. So he was very involved in church. He served a lot. And we did get to serve together as well. We served in the marriage ministry and the parenting ministry. So that brought us even closer in terms of our spiritual lives. And we also did a stint of running business together. So he became a business partner. We're co-directors. Like he was in every front of my life. He was a partner. So he was a business partner, spiritual prayer partner, and of course, my co-parent. So his impact was great.
Wow.
And on every front.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to just read another one here, because I want to include Kefa here as we remember him, and he was romantic.
He was.
And these here on page 107. I'm just going to read, and this is he narrated this. Kefa verbalized this to a friend when he was completing this book. So this is what he said to Christine. I knew the minute I met Christine that she would be the one I would marry. I remember my retreat with Christine in Kenya. When you become emotional, you become closer. I need to know what makes my wife Christine happy. I need to know her needs. Would flowers make her happy? I have not sent her flowers. When we owned a flower business, I did not want a florist who was our competitor to send her flowers. I did not want her to arrange her own flowers from me. Yeah. Ladies often bought flowers for themselves. What does Christine long for? Food? Flowers? Food is a love language. Food shows love and enjoyment. This is how my mother showed love. Laughter is a common language. A smile is too. That's how Kefa thought about his wife. How romantic is that? How beautiful is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you
He
just said
was-
he loved cooking for you. He used to love making you laugh a lot. I've read this book and I've gone through it. And also, for the brief encounter that I had with you guys, it felt like I knew you guys for a very long time, although it was like a year. But what I have seen here now, knowing your background and the way you did, it's you were so happy. You could see the joy in somebody's face. You could see, they say a picture tells a million stories. You guys have a lot of pictures, and we're going to share with you about the love story, the pictures, and all this. We could see the joy and all that. And least to say, any loss is devastating. It doesn't matter who it is, but when you lose your best friend and your life partner and you say he was the front for everything, and that bond was very strong, and we are grateful that you shared that with us, because nowadays there are people who are very suffering in marriage. Some people are divorcing, some people are mistreating others. Domestic violence is on the rise. So it's refreshing to hear a man of God or a man who wants to step down and say enough is enough. This is my family. I'm going to love my wife. I'm going to love my children, and I'm going to do what's right by God, and not losing that through trials, through temptations. It's very rare. As it is, it's not common.
That's true.
Yes, so we are grateful that you shared that, and encouraging young men and even older men who are in the marriages and those people who are going through hard time to just learn from Kefa. And you can get this book. It has a lot of gem, and I've learned a lot from it.
Yeah.
So, Christine, how is life going on for you? Because since Kefa left, now you said you came to Canada. Soon after, he's gone. You're left with the children.
Yeah, that I keep saying we planned to come to Canada. It's a decision we had to make very thoughtfully and very cautiously, because we were not that young. We were in our early 40s, and so we were going to leave a lot behind if we were to make this journey. And we knew we had to count the cost. What were we going to leave behind, and what did we stand to gain? And so we took a lot of time to pray about it and process it and look at the pros and cons of that decision. And we felt that the Lord was saying, it's time to go, it's fine. And every provision was made for that trip. And because we wanted to be together, we didn't want, I was coming actually to school. I was changing my career completely and coming back to school. And we didn't want it to, that I was going to come and just do school and then go back home. We wanted to do it together as a family. So we came and we were excited. And of course, we had all these plans. Our kids are going to go through school, hopefully going to university. And yeah, we'll see what thereafter looks like, if we will stay, or at least we'll give our kids that foundation and then maybe go back home at some point. So of course, after 2 years, I graduated from the program I was doing. September, Kefa starts having a twitch on his foot, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? We thought it was just like muscle spasms. He had been working out, maybe his foot was tired, and so we did a lot of massage, dipped his foot in Epsom salts, tried all those home remedies, and nothing was working. Until, well, he had to now go to hospital and get checked. And he was referred to a neurologist to have that assessed and see what's going on. It took a bit of time before he actually saw the neurologist. But in the meantime, his foot was getting worse and worse and worse, and it started becoming numb, and it was very difficult to walk. And by the time the neurologist saw him, which was sometime in October, towards the end of October, he sent him for a CT scan, and I remember by that day his left foot was literally like almost numb. He was walking with a walking stick, and his left arm had also started getting numb. And this was like looking so serious. So by the time the neurologist saw him, he was like, go straight to the hospital, get a CT scan. And Kefa had driven himself there. We didn't think it was going to be anything really serious, but he called me and said, I'm not coming home. They found a mass in my brain and I can't even drive. So you will need to come and take the car when you're leaving. So don't come driving, just come with someone so that you can drive the car back. And I was like, okay, what does that mean? What is a mass in the brain? Like, this is crazy. So by the time I got some friends to get us to take me there, and we were just wondering what's happening. And so there was no doctor. It was way in the evening by that time. They had scheduled him for an MRI the next morning. And the MRI, they suggested it was a tumor. And he had to be airlifted to Calgary, which was 3 hours away because we lived in Medicine Hat at that time. And of course, by this time, when they're talking about a tumor, it's obviously cancer is looming in the air, you know. And we were scared. We were scared. I won't tell you it was an easy time. I couldn't sleep that evening. The next day he was airlifted to Calgary, and I was left saying goodbye to him as they drove him away in an ambulance. And I couldn't imagine that we were facing this. It felt like our lives were being turned upside down. Everything was happening so fast. They didn't know whether it was benign or malignant. Now that was the next piece. Like, okay, is this cancerous or is it just one of those tumors that don't do much? That was the next thing that was causing so much anxiety. So but the next day I had to drive to Calgary, and 3-hour drive because I couldn't take the plane with him. And we met the neurologist the neurosurgeon actually in Calgary. And he said the only way to know is when he gave us options. So it's either they do the surgery to remove the tumor, then they do a biopsy, or they do a biopsy and find out whether it's cancerous and then decide whether we'll do the surgery. So we opted to just go straight and do the surgery, just get that thing out and let our lives go back to normal. Unfortunately, it was cancerous, and it was stage 4, what they call glioblastoma, an aggressive form of brain cancer that had very poor prognosis. And by the time we were meeting with the radiologist and the oncologist, they didn't give us much hope, but they said, we'll try. So surgery was very successful. We thank God for that. The whole tumor was removed. And we were excited. We were sure now, okay, our lives are going to go back to normal. We've prayed. The tumors all been removed. The surgeon said everything he could see with his own eyes was out. And we were like, phew, thank you, Jesus. Now we're just going to do treatment, radiation, chemotherapy, and then, our lives will go back to normal. But that didn't work out the way we wanted. And radiation happened, yes. Chemotherapy happened, yes. But that tumor, it's one little monster. It just came back. Came back after about 5 months. It started growing. And this was so disappointing for us. We were really devastated. Like, why? Like, how? We had prayed and we had trusted God, and we were so sure he was going to get better, And just hearing that the tumor was coming back, it felt like, God, why are you letting this happen, you know? And the doctors, the neurosurgeon was like, he couldn't, the way the tumor had come back, couldn't be operated on again. There was no way they could do any surgery on him. The risks were too high, like he would have gotten paralyzed. Like it was just not even in the form that it was initially to be able to be removed. So they referred him to palliative care. And all these things were just so new to us. Like, what is palliative care? Like, I mean, like, we had not had a significant death in our family or even that kind of illness in our family that was so close. So everything was just so new to us. And for me, I was like, no, this can't be happening. It was like I was in a dream, like, what is going on here? And things were happening so fast, there was no time to just sit down and process, you know. But for me, I was fighting for his life. I was so sure this thing we're gonna beat this thing and it's gonna be behind us. I was like, we didn't come to Canada to die. He's not gonna die. We're going to live. He's going to live. And for me, we tried everything. We tried a clinical trial. We tried diet. We I put him on a keto diet. We tried a natural kind of treatment, and all these things just were not working. And for me, I really struggled with that because I felt like God was telling me he was going to heal him. And all the signs were not showing that. But I think I was in denial. And other people now tell me, you know, they could see, but they couldn't tell me. They found it very difficult to tell me. I know one friend tried to get me into that conversation around the possibility of, the fact that he's probably not gonna make it. But I didn't want to hear. I didn't want to engage in any thought around death. Kefa was 46. I was 45. Like, that was not in our script. It was not in our 5-year, 10-year plan. It was just not in our plan. And so for me, death was just not an option. And I think Kefa battled as well. He was determined to fight. But I think the Lord maybe spoke to him in a different way, that he found it, he was a little bit more open, let me put it that way. Because he told me one day, you know, Christine, we always say that we want to be with Jesus. But when the time comes, we don't want to go. And I told him, I know, Kefa, that's true. But your time has not yet come. And that conversation was shelved. It was shelved.
Yeah.
We're going to heaven, yes, but this is not your time. Let's fight for your life, and
That's a hard conversation to have.
Yeah, very hard.
Very, very, from coming from a normal life to everything being turned upside down to a possible conversation, knowing that this person is living, and for him to be in that place to share this with you, knowing he has 2 young children, you guys are new immigrants in a new country, and your life is just beginning to just getting to the routine and live as a family now, not as a student, like a mother, and you're working and so on. You have so much dreams and hopes and aspirations to move forward. That cannot be any easier for anyone, and I don't think anyone could have had that conversation any other way, like just even sit down and discuss it. It's hard.
It's hard. It's very hard.
I'm so sorry, Christine. You guys had to go through this. You had to go through this. But once I was blessed, as I said, friends, I was able to be in their life for a short time. And one thing from the whole thing that I saw, the struggle and the resilience that Christine had, that is what I was talking about, resilience and faith, is from the moment I met her, I knew she was a woman of God, and I knew she was a fighter and sober minded, because all she had was focused with Kefa and his well being, her husband to be home. And the one thing I saw, to be honest, it's the kind of love they had. And later I said, in a different setting, if love could save life, Kefa's life would have been saved by the love that his family had, the children, and Christine, the love they had for Kefa was amazing, was really great. And that was a good thing to see, because it made most of us, you go home, you look at your spouse, and it's like, my gosh, if this happens, would I love him that much? Would he love me that much? So it was good to see that. And I'm so grateful you guys had that time to be loving one another. But as you said, God had his own plans to take Kefa home, and Kefa prepared differently. How is life been since Kefa left for you and the boys?
Life is just has never been the same, and it will never be the same. It will never be the same. It's hard to do life without Kefa. He was like the pillar of our family. He brought a lot of laughter. You met him when he was in hospital, but he still laughed quite a bit. And when he was well, Kefa had this boisterous laughter, that you could hear from anywhere in the house. And that laughter just brought so much ease to everyone in the home, and we miss that a lot. We miss that. We miss his direction. Kefa was so good in just seeing things in a different way, made decisions so much easier. And that's something that I struggle with to this day. Like, I wish I had his perspective on so many things that, so many decisions I have to make. And so it has not been easy, even for the children. I try to think about what is going on in their minds, and I can't even wrap my head around how it must be for them. And it's been tough. I won't cheat you. It's been tough. But God has, just helped us. He's stepped in through friends, through family, just through his own connection with us at a very deep and personal level, because there are things that friends cannot do for you. There are things that family cannot do for you. When you go back to your house and you go to your bedroom and you're all alone in that huge bed, like, he's not there. I have to face that reality that he's not there to help me lay that bed and sleep on that bed with me. He's not there for the children to be that pillar, that role model that they needed as they transitioned through teenage years as young men. And it's hard. Nobody can replace that. We've tried connecting them to godly men as mentors, but no one can replace that, And I would say that death is one of those things that just changes your life forever. It brings you to a place that feels so helpless. Like I said, I was fighting for Kefa's life, but so many things were beyond my control. And like, if it was up to me, Kefa would still be alive. So death is one of those things that makes you feel so helpless because you can't control it, But then just coming to that realization that we have a God who is still in control. And he can turn things around and make something different out of what the pain that we've gone through is now what we are living and experiencing. So it's a new kind of way of doing life without Kepha. Not as defeated and helpless beings, but as people who are loved by God, as people who are helped by God, as people who can still have our own impact. Many times I think about, okay, Kepha fulfilled his purpose here. He lived a rich life. Even though it was short, he made an impact in people's lives. What am I doing on my end? You know, it's not enough to just wish to be with him. My time has not yet come. I still need to do something with my life here on earth. And so that learning to live with this grief and not let it weigh me down, but live with it. And the same thing for the boys, just building that resilience in them and seeing how God can make something beautiful out of their lives and out of our lives as a family in a way that we never could have imagined. But he has given us that sense of togetherness and that bond together, and we continue to cherish Kepha's memories now in beautiful ways. It's not always, there is pain, but I would say the pain reduces with time and it's not so debilitating. But when we turn it around and look at what did Kepha teach us? What were those beautiful things that we live from his being in our lives? You know, the positive things he taught us. One thing that Kepha always told me, because he knew I liked to worry a lot, this verse has continued to carry me from Philippians, and Philippians 4:6. It says, do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication, make your requests known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. And when I think about Kepha, I hear those words, don't be anxious, Christine, because that was the first thing that gripped me. A lot of anxiety, a lot of fear of how will we manage without him.
Wow, friends, we are going to pause there and we are going to go to the second episode because this has to be unpacked. We have to know how is Christine and the boys are going to make it without Kepha? How is their journey going to continue here? What are they going to keep on believing in God? Are they going to follow the steps that Kepha left them, the instructions? Are they going to continue with the faith and the resilience? Friends, let's take a break and join us for part 2 of this show. Thank you. God bless you.